Hi, guys, and thank you so much for joining Divine Notes with Vanessa today. Today, we are talking about true matters of the heart. Healing finds a way. And today, I have a special guest with me, my dear friend Tina Minnick, and she's going to be talking about her testimony, ways that she's gone through life, and just pretty much just letting us have the real deal. And so, Tina, you and I talked briefly about your story and about healing finding a way in your life. And so tell me a little bit about your story and who is Tina? What has she gone through and what has God really done in her life for her to be where she is today?
Gotcha. Well, thank you for having me. I just want to start off with my childhood. As a child, I was born to a schizophrenic mother. Both my parents were drug addicts, and so I was in and out of foster care. I was adopted when I was, I believe, 8 years old, but I lived on the streets, was homeless, dealt with sexual abuse as a child, and so all of that kind of shaped my adolescence years. When I became a teenager, I really started acting out, and I just didn't know how to deal with all of that, and no one talks about it a lot either, so I went to being a promiscuous teenager and really just acting out and getting into fights and a lot of stuff like that. And when I became 17, I think I went through so much that I was like, no, I need to do something different. And so when I went into a church at 17, I gave my life to Christ and really started walking that out to where when my adolescence years was so dark, my young adult years have been so great. I got married at 20. I had my children. I co-parent with my husband's baby mama, so we have 2 children total. And just a complete 180 from where I started from. But I had to go through a lot of healing to get to that point, though. So
Absolutely, and that's so true because, first of all, thanks for sharing that. And when we go through things in our lives and when we are sometimes subjects of generational curses and things that are happening in our lives, I mean, I can attest to that. I mean, it was a journey to heal and to break free from certain struggles and habits that formed out of result of those generational curses. And but one thing that I do want people to know is that you can be free. You can get healed. And just as you walked into that church at 17 years old and you said, you know what, I'm tired of living my life this way. I'm tired of just living the same old thing, and I want to do what God is calling me to do. That was you answering your purpose. That was you saying, you know what, I'm going to walk into my purpose and I'm going to do what I need to do. And look at your life today. I mean, wow, you know, and so God is good. But tell me what that healing process looked like, because as we know, healing processes aren't pretty. They're not, but it's where the meat happens. It's where we are really formed. It really shows us our character. It really shows us who God is really calling us to be, and that's when we find out where our purpose is. Because when we're in the pit, we really don't really feel it a lot. We don't know. We're like, I don't know who I am, right? But when we go on the healing journey, God begins to do a work in us, and He begins to show us, okay, Tina, this is who you are. Okay, Vanessa, this is who you are. So tell me what that process looked like for you.
Yeah, so when I started going to church, it really started, a lot of the messages were dealing with a lot of unforgiveness and healing. And so I started my process then really applying the word and saying, okay, I don't want to keep doing the same things. How do I heal from this? And I started walking that out. But it wasn't until I started premarital counseling that all of that started getting revealed. So when I started premarital counseling, they go to the root of it. How were you raised? Because all of that stuff comes up in a marriage. Something as simple as my parents put the ketchup in the cupboards, my parents put it in the refrigerator, and that becomes a fight. But for us, my husband and I had 2 different upbringings, and so really diving into that. And I remember one premarital counseling session where we started getting into like the abuse and everything. And we just stopped the session because I just cried and cried. And I really had to let it out. But my husband has also been very patient with me with it, because anyone that has went through abuse, all of that comes up. So for someone that's been through domestic violence, you know, if someone tries to grab them to like stop something from falling on them, your initial reaction is, you're trying to hit me. You know, all that comes up, even though completely different person, they love you, but that's your initial reaction. And so for me, that was the same thing. Even in my marriage, like intimacy was hard for me. So how do I be intimate? Because I love you, but this is what I was taught at such a young age. And my husband has just been very patient with me through all of it, and really just talking with me and just understanding. If I say, you know, not tonight, that's just what it is, because he understands that that's my process. So it's just been us walking it out. Him not being like, well, you don't love me, why don't you want to touch me, or why don't you want to hug me? And it's like, it's not you. But if I don't say no, I'm still that little girl. And so just going through that. So he's been very understanding and loving through it. So.
And that's awesome. I mean, because sometimes you don't have people who are understanding of your process, and or sometimes you just have people who don't. It's not that they don't want to understand. Sometimes it's that they just simply just can't understand. But that's so great that you have somebody who does, because as we know, this healing process is already enough to deal with, and then our loved ones and people that we trust, we have to have a circle around us who are saying, you know what, I'm going to love you through this. Even though what's happening right now may not be what I need, but it's what you need and what you need to go through. And so that's amazing, because I was talking with a friend actually a couple days ago about triggers. And you mentioned something about triggers. And so, and how people, when they go through things, and you know, it could be something simple as a touch, or something that somebody says. I mean, those things are real when you go through your healing process, and you have to be sure that you're surrounding yourself with people who really understand. Okay, you know what, this is going to be a God process. This is going to be something that I need to go through. So don't take it as if I don't love you, because my love is there. I just have to allow God to rebuild it, and allow God to rebuild the love for myself. You know, and again, that was a part of my process that I had to deal with as far as triggers. And just simply saying, you know, I can't allow these triggers to continue to rule my life. And it'll happen. You know, I've gone through my healing process, and I'm still, you'll never arrive. There's always something that you have to heal from, and so, or give over to God. And so, but praise be to God that He does those things. And so, what would you say to a young man or young woman who has gone through a similar background as yourself, and they're like, I don't know who I am. I don't know where to begin. I don't know if I even want to do this thing anymore, because we've all been there. What do you say to somebody who's in that mind frame, and who's looking for help, and who needs help? What do you say to them?
I know for me, with my upbringing with just foster care and abuse and everything, there's so many statistics out there in regards to it. And I know for me, I'm like, I don't want to be a statistic. I don't, like, statistics say that I should be on the streets, I should be selling myself, I should be doing drugs. But I'm like, I don't want to be that. And so for anyone, I would say, you know, it doesn't matter where you start with your healing process, just start, you know, because you don't want to get into that cycle of insanity, continuously doing the same thing over and over and over, and not getting a new result. And so just start, whatever that looks like. If it looks like going to church, or if it looks like throwing all the alcohol in your cupboard away, whatever that is, and stick to it, because it's rough, and there's times where it's like, what's the point? But there's a beauty on the other side of it. Like when I was a teenager and I was going through it, and I'm like, just keep going, keep walking this walk, because you know, God has such a big plan for me, and even though I don't see it yet, I know it's there.
Yeah.
So I have to walk it out. So just walking it out day by day,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then in the end of it, it all makes sense. Because now that, you know, I'm an adult, I realize like everything that I went through led me to this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I didn't have great parents doesn't mean that I can't be a great parent.
Right.
Just because I didn't see a healthy marriage doesn't mean that I can't have
That's
one.
real.
And so literally being the example,
Yeah.
even when you don't have one.
That's real.
But it takes healing to get to that point. So that's what it was for me, really just healing, walking through it,
Yeah.
and saying, you know what, no matter what, I'm going to keep going.
Right.
If people don't understand it, I'm going to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't like it, I'm going to keep
Right.
going. Because there was a lot of people that was like, well, you feel like you're better than me. And a lot of people was like, well, why don't you do what I do? And I'm like, that's just not for me.
Right.
You know, and no matter how they felt, how much they didn't like it, I'm like, I'm sorry, then maybe you're just not for me.
Come on.
Maybe you're not for me. Even a relationship prior to my husband, I started going to church, and he was in church, but he wasn't, the Lord wasn't in him.
It's like,
and it came to a point where it was like, I'd rather let this go than allow you to drag me down. And I was like, God, it's just you and me.
Yeah.
It's just you and me. And shortly after that, I met my husband.
Wow.
But if I would have hung on to that, trying to save this thing that was already broken, that wasn't what God had for me. If I would have stayed in it, I would have never met my husband.
That's a word in itself. That is a word in itself. Because, and again, I was talking with another friend the other day, and she is in a situation to where she's kind of at a crossroads.
Yeah.
And she's in her healing process, but she has certain people in her life who are really for her.
Yeah.
And one thing I mentioned to her was this, is that God cannot bring what he really has for you if you're allowing the counterfeits to sit in that place. It just doesn't work. You know, you have to remove something in order for God to give you something.
Yeah. I heard it similar, I'm paraphrasing, but it said complacency is being a slave to your past and neglecting your future. And I was like, okay, I don't want to be complacent anymore. I don't want to be complacent.
Right.
But yeah, I would have never met my husband if I didn't let that go and say, you know what, I'd rather be by myself and love myself than to be in this toxic relationship and continue that cycle of pain. And I was like, I'm sorry, but this isn't for me. I wish you the best. I don't care if I'm lonely the rest of my life. But I know that God's got me at the end of the day. And when I made that decision, that's when everything changed.
Right. And that's so good, because sometimes you have to get to that place to where it's like, you know what, I don't care if it's just me and God my rest of my life. I'm going to do this thing right. And it takes time to get there, because we have to remove certain things that we're dealing with, and of course the pains that have been, you know, bottled up inside of us. But once we start to remove that, we start to see ourselves more. And we start to love ourselves enough to say, no, I'm not going to put up with this, you know? And it's something, too, when we talk about pain and we talk about the healing process, we also have to know that the healing process just isn't for us. Because just as how you had to go through your process and you made those decisions, what if you hadn't made those decisions? What we do and the decisions that we make affect future generations. And I've kind of been on that for a while, because God has really been showing me that lately. And he's been showing me that for quite some time, but for some reason lately it's been really intensified. And he's like, no, every decision that you make from this moment, it's going to affect future generations. And so you better make sure, you know, me and God got to talk like that. He just like, well, you better make sure, you know. And he's not saying, oh, don't do this. No. Be precise in what you're doing. And not to say that you're not going to make mistakes. I make mistakes every day. But that's where his grace comes in. That's where his mercy comes in. But our healing process just isn't for us. And so once I grasped that in mine,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure you did as well, it's like, oh no, this changes the game a bit because I'm not just going through this for me. I have to come out of this for everybody.
Yeah.
You know?
I walk through a lot of situations with a lot of people
Yeah.
who needed to hear
Mm-hmm.
the story that I had to share. But I think about it too. If I would have never chose my husband, if I would have never went through premarital counseling and healed and got married and had children, you know, like just making the right decision with being with him, you know, and having a healthy marriage, that would have affected my children. Because if I would have chose the other person and had children with that person, then the children that I would have had from him would see that cycle.
Yeah.
You know, so it's crazy what one decision can make.
Yeah.
But I look at it now and I watch my children with their father, and I'm like, I never had this. I never had a father. I don't know what it feels like, but I'm glad I gave it to you.
Yeah.
So it affects them. So I'm so glad that I made that choice and chose to do it right. But again, it's never too late.
Right.
So even if you didn't, you can always change it. You can always break the cycle.
Absolutely.
It's never too late.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, that's true. That's true because sometimes people can feel like it's too late for me. I don't know what to do, or you know, everybody goes through that. You know, I went through that, and I was young. I'm like, wait, it's not too late for me. But really, it's never too late. You can be 21, you could be 15, you could be 45, you could be 65. It is never too late to get your healing, because honestly, God can work through anybody.
Yeah.
He could do anything. He will give you beauty for your ashes.
Yeah.
And I'm a living testimony to that, and so are you, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, he truly does. And looking back, even on my journey and looking back and saying, God, I don't know if I can take this anymore. God, I don't know if I can do this, because it felt like, honestly, it felt like the healing process hurt more than the things that I had went through. And I was like, why does it feel like this is hurting more than the trauma I actually went through? You know, I remember being in counseling, and I was going through a counseling session one time, and some stuff had really came up, and it hurt. Like, I physically felt my heart like just hurt. And I'm like, God, I don't know, like, if I can do this, but I'm going to. You know, I kind of had the same mentality. I was like, I don't care what I got to do. I don't care who's around anymore. If you don't want to stay, you can go. It is what it is. I got to get my healing, because, see, healing is going to find its way to me, period. Healing is going to be for me, you know, so it's something about a mind shift, because as we know, it starts in the mind, and a lot of times people are like, it's your heart. Yeah, it's your heart, because the heart matters are the result of what you are thinking in your mind and what you're allowing your mind to go through, and so if you think it's kind of like what the word says, what he thinketh in his heart, so is he. And so it's like, you thought it is in your heart, right? So, you know, uprooting those things takes time. Habits formed as a result of traumatic experiences take time. But to me, and to others, I'm sure, it sounds like that you took the time to say, I'm going to do this thing. And it's just me and God. It is what it is, because we can have so many people around us. We can have a support system. But if we don't come within ourselves and do it for ourselves, nothing can change. I was trying to heal for this person, that person, because that's just, as women, that's kind of, we think everybody. We're like, wait, I'm hurt, but I want to heal for this person. And that's great. Of course, that's good to have that mindset, but
starts with you.
You got to start with you, you know, and so that's so true. But tell me about a time to where you maybe encountered with someone a situation to where you were trying to help them, maybe in their healing journey. We've all been there. We were trying to help them in their healing journey, and maybe they just didn't want to hear it, or they were defensive. How did you handle that? because us as people, just in general, we want to help the people we love
Yeah.
so much. We want to help family, we want to help
Yeah.
friends, we want to do all that. But what were the boundaries that you set in place with that? Because sometimes it can boil over, sometimes you can take on more. And so, what do you say to somebody who's like, you know what, I've gone through my healing process. And I want to help everybody come out. I mean, I'm grabbing folks. I'm just snatching them, you know. And I've been there too, and I had to calm down because God was like, "Wait a minute, I didn't ask you to calm down," you know. So, what do you say to somebody who's like, "I want to help them, but how?"
Yeah, I know for me, the first thing that came to mind was that relationship that I was just speaking about. And this person actually is the one that brought me to the church, that relationship. And for me, it was like an instant, like, this is everything that I ever needed, you know. When I accepted Christ, it was like water in the desert.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is what I've been missing. And so I was so on fire, always at church, like several times a week, always going, always trying to learn, grow, and be a better person. And for this person, I'm like, come on. Like, then I'm starting to drag them. I'm like, come on, let's go to church. Come on, let's pray. Come on, let's, you know. And I just started to notice, like, okay, you might be coming with me every now and again, but you're not really in it. And I'm trying and I'm pushing you, but we're just on two different wavelengths. And that for me was like, okay, I've done everything I can do, but I can't do it at, you know, the sake of myself.
Right.
And so for that person, I had to just let it be. And I had to remove myself from it, because if I didn't, then I could have started to revert. And that's not what I wanted to do. For every relationship, it's different. Like, I know for my mother, she is still on her walk, and I just love her for who she is. You know, family members, I love them for who they are. And if you want to hear about it, if you want to talk, I'm here for you. But I'm not judging you. I'm not down your throat. It's just, whenever you need me, I'll be there.
And that's so good, because at that point, we're loving people where they are. And we're not taking the place of God. Because at the end of the day, it's not us. Yeah, He can use us as a vessel to speak and reach out to somebody. But then He's the one to do the internal work. And He's the one to really walk out that process with them. And so that's so true, because I spent a lot of time trying to pretty much heal people and try to get them healed and do all of that. And I'm walking with you, sis. Absolutely, I am walking with you. But I had to shift up my position because one thing that God showed me was that you're not helping this person, you're hindering them at this point. And so I was like, oh, okay. And so I take each situation now, and I use discernment, because I'm like, God, I'm not just out here sweeping up folks now. You know, show me who you need me to talk to. Show me who you need for me to take under my wing, or show me who to mentor. Any of those things now, because there had to be boundaries at that point, and especially with family. You know, you have to do that as well. You love your family. You want to see them succeed and grow and be blessed and get the same internal work that you did. But at some point, you have to say, okay, God, is this what you really want me to do? Because if it's not, then show me where my position is, you know? And so that is so true. But as far as the healing process and healing journeys and, you know, moving forward, what is your next steps? What is next for Tina? What does that look like for you? Because the healing process has been great, and your life is going great, and God is really moving, and He's doing, and none of us are perfect, no, but God has done an internal work. And so what's next for you? What does that look like?
I've noticed now that I'm in my mid-20s that I am after everything I didn't have. So, for example, as a child, I was a homeless, and so now I'm working on my credit because I know I'm going to be a home buyer. You know, just coming from nothing, like I'm really like big on, I'm learning finances, I'm learning credit. How do I be the best person I can be? How do I own businesses? You know, I don't want to be complacent with where I'm at. I have a good job and I make decent money, but how do I grow in that while also growing a business? How do I be a better mother? How do I continue to not only like raise my children but guide them? How do I set them up? You know, I gave them a 2-parent home. You know, we have a roof over our head. Like, they're good, but how do I really set them up for success? How do I support my husband? So everything that I didn't have, I'm like all for like pouring into that in this season. That's just really what I've been into. I really see myself growing businesses, just having financial security, not just living from paycheck to paycheck, setting up wealth for my children. I want my grandchildren to look back and be like, because of them, you know, we are. So that's really what I've been doing, really just honing in and focusing on that, learning, growing, because even when I was adopted and I had, you know, a family at that point, but we still, you know, were raised in low-income communities, and so I'm just like, okay, everything that I didn't have, who said I can't? You know, we start to put limits on ourselves. If you grew up on welfare, who said you can't go above that? Who said you can't own businesses? Who said? And I think that there's a stigma, a mental stigma at least, to where it's like, okay, this is all I've ever known, but it's like, why not learn more, grow more, be better? So that's really what I have in mind, having a healthy, prosperous marriage until we die. There is no divorce. This is it. So
that's right. It's like
we don't figure it out. So that's really what I've been into, and you know, not just trying to buy flashy cars and all that, like saving our money, putting it away, buying a home, like all of those things, growing businesses, you know, being able to hire people, like, I don't know, that's what I'm into right now. I'm researching and learning and supporting my husband while his music is popping off. And just doing that, so.
And that's amazing. I mean, the thing is that, and this is just my take on it. But I feel like in this millennial generation, there are 2 types of millennials. There are the types who are like, hey, we out here and we're trying to get everything that God has for us. We're trying to do what we need to do. Then you got those that are like, well, I'm teeter-tottering, and that's okay. We've all been there. But when you're talking about financial security and home and just really getting what God has for you, that's breaking that poverty mindset that a lot of people have. It. I don't care if you come from money or if you come from being poor. A poverty mindset is not necessarily tied to money. It's tied to the way you see yourself, the way you see your future, and what you see that you can get and what you can do. That's the poverty mindset. And so that's amazing, because not a lot of people, some are thinking that way. I think that way, but a lot of people don't think that way. And so I think it's important that the people who do think that way are an example. We're not saying we're perfect, because again, things happen and life is life, right? But we're making a decision to say, you know what, we're gonna use our story of what's happened to us, and we're going to let that motivate us into this next phase in our life. We're going to be homeowners, we're going to be business owners, we're going to do all of these things, because it didn't look so great back then, but we're going to use exactly what happened, and we're going to let that fuel us. Absolutely, you know, and so that's amazing. And so Tina, this has been amazing talking to you. First of all, like I kid you not, like I was always like, I need to talk to her. Like she got a story. I'm sure she does. Like, you know, because again, the most people that you see who are shining so bright, they've more than likely had a rough story. You know, and so, but I want to thank you for just sharing your story and being open and honest about it, because that's not, you know, easy to do sometimes, you know, let people in and seeing that and saying, okay, I'm going to be transparent about this. But I do want to pray for those who are really pretty much going through a season in their lives, to who are saying, you know what, I want healing to find its way to me. I want healing to really just go in and out of my heart, my mind, my body, my spirit, every part of me. And so I want to pray for you, because we are praying that healing finds you, and it will. All you have to do is seek God. A lot of times you'll hear it and you'll say, oh, just seek God on the matter. He'll do it. No, let me tell you this. If you really seek God on something, He is a God that cannot and shall not lie. And so if you seek Him on the matter, I guarantee you He's going to come through for you. I promise you that. And so, God, we thank you. God, we thank you for the individual who is watching this today, God. God, I thank you that you have just done a great work in Tina's life, oh God. God, I thank you that her story is truly being used for your glory, God. God, I thank you that as she has shared today, her struggles and the things she has gone through and how she has gone through them, God. God, I thank you that you are just continuing to work in and out of her life, my life, and the person who is watching this today, God. God, they're saying, I don't know what healing looks like. I don't know what that feels like. I don't even know if it can find me. God, I thank you that you're speaking to them right now. And you're meeting them where they are. And you're letting them know that you will heal them, God. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but as we know, there is a process to this thing. But God, we know that this process is truly worth it because it's valuable and it's true. And so, God, we thank you that you are bringing them out of the dark places in their lives, oh God. God, let them know that it won't always be this way. God, we thank you and we praise you for the power and the glory that you're going to continue to work in and out of their lives, God. Let them know that they do matter. They do matter. So, God, we thank you and we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen. Tina, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate that. And please stay tuned for part 4 next week of Divine Notes with Vanessa. I hope that you have a great, great day. Bye-bye.